today, year 7, is a pencil, a pen, a ruler, a piece of paper and a rubber. Well, you might need a rubber. I'm just got one at the end of my pencil, but any rubber will do. A lot of you won't have your sketchbooks with you. Some of you may, some of you won't. If you do not have your sketchbook, that is no problem. All you'll need is a piece of paper. This is a piece of paper from my printer. It's currently too big because what you do today will be going into your sketchbooks. So what you're going to do is take your piece of hopefully plain paper. If you don't have plain paper, that's okay, but plain paper is preferable. Is you're going to fold it in half, like you're making a little buck. Make that edge quite stiff, and then you can turn it around that way. So you now have a folded piece of paper, which is A5, which means it will fit in your sketchbook, and you're going to be today drawing on this side and on this side. So on both sides, and what's going to happen is when you come back to school, we will stick what you've done in your sketchbooks. So this needs to be done. You can't get away with not doing it. You need to have these drawings done. You need to follow this lesson. So yeah, this is what you're going to need. A piece of paper, a pencil, a pen, a ruler and a rubber. This is today's first drawing. It is a simple line drawing that you'll be doing in pencil. The image is provided on the previous slide, and all you'll need for this is your piece of paper and your pencil. You'll just be doing it on one half of your paper, and it will be stuck into your book when you return to school. So what you're going to want to do is make sure that you can see the image provided on the previous slide. So that may mean opening the separately attached document on class charts so you can see that and the video. Once you've done that, you'll follow along with my instructions. This video is only just going to be a visual instruction, so you're not going to be talked through it. You are simply just going to be shown what to do, as you would do if this was in your actual lesson. So you're going to follow along with this video. You can replay it as many times as you want, but I recommend about 10 to 15 minutes to complete this. I'll leave you to it, just follow along with the video and it will guide you through what needs to be done. However, before I leave you to it, just very quickly a few reminders to use light sketchy lines. Don't put too much pressure on your pencil, because if you do need to make a mistake and need to rub it out, you don't want harsh indents left on your page. So light sketchy lines, always refer back to your image, and you can play this video as many times as you need to. is to be completing the second half of this bottle. So we've done this bottle with just the outline. We've added no tone or no tone or texture or shape. We've just done the outline. We've been beginning to look at our proportion and our scale, making sure everything's in the right place. Now we're going to be finishing this drawing. Some of you, if you can print this off, that is fantastic. That'd be really good. It is attached to your class chart and to your resources. If not, that's okay. What you can do is on your A5 piece of paper is take a ruler or a piece of paper or anything with a hard edge, and on the second half of your A5 piece of paper is you can draw a line down the centre of it, and the image is also going to be attached to the PowerPoint, and you can sketch the second half of that image without the first half. But if you can, I would recommend printing this out. It will make it a bit easier and it reduces your workload just a tiny amount. So what you're going to need for this bit is a pencil, and if you have a pen would also be really good. I am going to talk you guys through this bit, so I'm not making you do it silently or independently. I'm going to talk you through each step. So I've got my image on my laptop, and I recommend you do the same. It is it's the second image in from the left. It might be numbered or labelled B. I haven't made the PowerPoint yet, so we'll find out. So I've got it on my computer, and what I'm going to do is I'm going to do the second half. The second half of this image is symmetrical to the first half, which means it is the same. So it mirrors it. So if I were to hold a mirror up to this, it would complete the image. So what we're going to do is I'm going to start at the top. I'm going to continue to look at my image on my computer screen. So I'm going to start off with this curved line at the top of the stopper. What I'm going to do is I'm going to check with my pencil if my lines are the right size, and so far they seem to be. So I've done that, and then I continued this slight curve out, and then I'm going to join these two lines up with a slight angled straight line. I'm going to what you can do if you are doing this with a printed out image, it's good if you kind of drag or like trace over the completed side, because that will help you get the shape and then help you when you drag it across. So if you drag your lines out in pencil, you'll kind of know what shapes you need to do. So that's a bit big at the moment, so I'm just going to sketch that line in a bit closer. Going to rub out that excess line. I'm pressing a bit darker at the moment so you guys can see it. I'm hoping the light doesn't go out on me. But you guys don't forget to use light sketchy lines. So, do the same. Tracing over those lines, pulling them out, and then just joining those together. You can either use a ruler or your pencil to check that your proportions are correct. So that's, yeah, I'm just measuring. So if I line the tip of my lead up to the tip of the pencil and then my finger to the edge and do this, move it across, and mine's about the same size, it's about the correct size, and I'm happy with that. Just getting my basic outlines in. It's going to be definitely more important on this side to measure. So I'm going to carry on with my ellipse. I'm just going to trace over those lines, continue the ellipse out. So I'm using some more keywords that you'll be coming across more and more as we continue with still life. So keep an eye out for them, see if you recognise them. And when you get back to school, we'll be adding those to your keyword lists. So I've continued that ellipse, and now I'm just going to draw a straight line from the edge of my ellipse up to the rim of the beaker. I'm going to then check my measurements. It's a bit shy, so I'm going to make that a little bit bigger. Make sure my laptop doesn't turn off. Ignore those are emails. Make sure I put my laptop on silent. So what I'm going to do now is, before I start sketching, I'm going to draw lightly sketch a light line across here, just so I know that when I sketch down this or mirror this line here, I know where it needs to stop. You can do that with a ruler. So if you've got a ruler, you can just draw that line, and you can also measure. You can measure the distance. So that from this where my drawing stops, so my centre line to where this curve is just shy of 2.5 centimetres. So I can then just mark that on this side. So I know that when I start sketching this down, this is where I need to hit. So that's where my line needs to go. And it needs to curve. That's the only reason you're going to need a ruler. I don't want you to use a ruler for your straight lines. That is cheating. So once we've done that, we can now look at how I'm holding my pencil. I'm holding it quite high up. So I've got I haven't got quite as much control, but I've got a bit more movement. And I can rest the side of my hand on my desk, and that'll help me create a straight line. It won't be perfectly straight. We're going to bring that down like so. I'm going to bring it all the way down to the end. I'm going to go past further where it needs to be, but that's just going to help me in a few minutes. And then from there, I can then finish this ellipse. So I'm tracing over the lines I can see with my pencil, and I'm extending them out. And then I'm doing the same here, tracing over my lines and bringing it to meet that first line I've traced. It might not be perfect the first time, you might need to rip out some lines and go over them again, but that's okay. Right, I'm going to give you guys a few more minutes, and in the next video I'm going to show you how you're going to start adding your tone and your texture and making it look a bit more 3D. Right, hopefully you have finished your outline with your pencil. If you have a pen, this is where we're going to start using it. We're going to continue to look at the image, the reference image. But now we're going to take your pen and we're going to start adding our lines. We're going to start adding our tone and our texture. And the way we're going to do this, if you look at the completed half of the image and on the image on the PowerPoint, you can see that a lot of the lines are curved. We don't just have straight lines. And if you were in my classes last term, you'll realise there is a word for that. That is called contouring. So we use contour lines. And that helps a 2D drawing look slightly more 3D. And it's something you're going to be using a lot of in the next term. So I am going to start at the top and I'm going to work my way down. If you are... No, never mind. Ignore what I was about to say. So my lines are all light and sketchy, but I can see where they are, and I'm going to start adding my tone. So I'm going to go over, I'm just going to drag some of my lines out. So pretty much all the lines you've already drawn are now going to become your black outlines. Or blue. You can do this in whatever colour pen you have, don't worry. And we're going to continue to look. So this shape is symmetrical. So both sides of the drawing are the same shape, but where it starts to differ is in the tone. So if you follow along with what I'm doing quite a lot of cross hatching and mark making. And I'm curving my lines. So I'm looking at my image, paying close attention to it. I'm seeing where my darks are, so where my shadows are and where my highlights are. And where my highlights are, I'm leaving those blank. I'm letting my paper do some of the work for me. And I'm continuing my lines. I'm looking at my image, I'm seeing where my lines are, seeing where I need to add some lines. Doing curving as well as I sketch, making sure my lines are curved. So they're not, my image is going to look flat and then it won't look realistic. So I'm actually just going to sketch, just do the darker outlines on most of what I've already drawn. Oh, I forgot to add that in pencil, but that's okay, I can do that very quickly here. To do what before, trace the line, bring it out. And actually on this side, it is mainly dark. So I'm going to do loads of very close lines together. And can you remember what we last term, one of the key things we learnt was that we start with our darks. So when we are adding tone and texture, especially with pen and pencil, we start with our darkest tone first. And the reason we do that is because if your light tone is too dark, it's going to be harder to correct the mistake. So I'm going to start curving my lines as I add tone, as I move on to the main part of the bottle. Just draw that line in straight. And now I'm getting into question. There we go, that's fine. So I'm always referring back to my image. I'm looking at it, I'm paying attention to where my lines curve, where I need to go over things to build up tone and make it darker, where I can continue the lines on the half of that image that's already been done for me. Making sure my lines are curved. So I'm just getting some of the basic shapes in as well, just so I know where some of my lines are going to be going. So what you'll find as well is that your curved lines as you draw are going to change direction. So some, as I'm doing now, I am curving like this. But when I get closer to the bottom, or when I start building up that tone a bit more, I'm going to follow a bit more of this curve down at the bottom. I'm also going to have to move my piece of paper to help me with my tone, with those angles. So don't be afraid to move the piece of paper around. You're going to want to do that, because otherwise it's going to be a bit tricky in terms of getting the correct angle. Ooh, that's accidentally knocked to you. so that when they start to overlap and my lines are closer together and I've got a bit more pressure because I'm trying to build that tone up, that's when my tones are going to start appearing. I'm going to use cross hatching, still curving all my lines. We don't want to spend too long on this. We're just going to spend another 5 minutes just adding our tone, curving our lines, building up our dark tones first as much as we can. We can use some straight lines as well just to get that, because quite a lot of this image is quite dark. And once we've done this, when you come back to school in a few weeks, these will be put in your sketchbooks and we'll be well on our way with our new project. So we learn a bit more about the basics of art and shape and tone, introduced to things like colour theory and painting. So we need to get these done so we can move on to the slightly more exciting things. But we won't be doing that unless everyone's got their drawings. So paying attention to the image that's on your computer, hopefully. Looking at where all the lines are, curving our lines so our bottles don't look flat and drab. Might need to add a bit more dark tones. Might want to get that sketching to be a bit closer together and a bit quicker. Just looking at our image all the time, as we would if we were in the classroom. I am happy with where my drawing is at, so I am going to leave that there. You guys can play this video as many times as you want, but so far what you should have is an outline with no tone or texture, just the outline, and then a half, either the completed image if you've been able to print it off, or if not, you should just have this half done. So yeah, I will see you in the next video. We should have so far. Right, okay, for this next drawing, on the opposites, on a fresh side of A5 paper, you're going to need a pencil and a ruler, and eventually you'll also need a pen. But for this next bit, you'll just need your pencil and a ruler. I am going to be showing you how to draw image D, so bottle D on the attached images, which should be on the previous slide for you. And what you're going to do to start with is you're going to draw a line. So you're going to have to do 2 drawings, so 2 bottles, so make sure you've got enough space to do a second bottle on the other side. The second bottle you can choose of your choice, it's your choice, you can do what you want, but I recommend following the first drawing just to help you. So I'm doing D. I've drawn this line to help me keep everything symmetrical, and so I know where things are. I would recommend, if you can print the images out, it would be beneficial, but it's not the end of the world if you can't. So what you're going to do is you're going to start with the top of D. So D is this one. It's on my screen. I don't have it printed out. And what I'm going to do is I'm going to start with the circle. And I'm going to use light sketchy lines, and to draw a circle I'm using loads of quick overlapping lines. I'm not pressing too hard. I'm going over certain areas that aren't quite as round as I need them to be, so that's not quite right. So I'm just going to sketch lightly like so. Then from there I'm going to draw the 2 lines that come off the circle, which is the top of the bottle stop, and there's a little curved line here. From there I'm going to draw 2 straight lines that just come just slightly past the edge of the circle, like so. And then I'm going to create a little bit of a curve on both sides, and then I'm going to match them together, not with a straight line, but still with a slightly curved line, like so. You might want to go back and correct as you go. From there, 2 straight lines off either edge of those curves, not too big, probably only ½ centimetre, and then I'm going to curve those together as well. So you can see whatever I do on this side, I'm doing exactly the same on the other side. And that line just helps me keep everything in check. So I'm always looking at my image, see where my line should go. So I'm still working on the top of the bottle at the moment. Still drawing in little lines and then connecting them in the centre. And then I've just got doing that again on my final little bit of the top of the bottle, and this time the lines don't go straight down, they're slightly angled. I'm going to do that again, just join them up like so. So hopefully if you were to put a mirror here, you'd have the repeated image. So that's why we've got this bit, is to help us make sure everything on both sides is exactly the same. Don't forget to keep your lines light and sketchy, because if you need to rub them out, it's going to help you if you don't have like massive indents in your page. So for the next bit, which is going to be slightly more difficult, is the curve of this bottle. It's quite a long bottle, so I'm going to just think, I'm going to guess where I think this is going to end. So I'm just going to help myself, give myself a little line. If you've got your actual image printed out, you can line that up next to it like we would, and you can draw your starting lines and your end lines like we did in class. But for now, I'm going to start this off as a bit of a curve, just coming slightly out from my centre line. So I've brought this line out, and then about halfway down I'm going to start adding the curve. So that kind of where it goes out somewhat more dramatically, and then it curves round. This may take a few goes. I don't think I'm going to get it in the first go. In fact, I definitely not. So you might need to go back a few times. You can rub out some of your lines. This is why you're doing light and sketchy. You're just going to need to practice it a few times. It might be that in my case it was coming further down than I thought it was going to. So I'm just going to continue that. Looking at my image thinking, do I think that's correct? I still think it comes out a bit too far up here. So I'm going to redo it. It's better to, if you do light and sketchy, to redo it a few times, just so that you get it right, you know what you're doing. I think I'm happy with that. It's not quite as far out as it was. I'm a bit happier with it. I'm going to do the exact same on the opposite side. Trying to mirror it. It might be that you need to start up from here. And it's probably that you're going to have to still make some adjustments. I'm going to have to still make some adjustments, just to make sure that I can get the base in. So I might pull this out a bit more on the opposite side. Just checking as I go, making sure that I've got my lines symmetrical on both sides. And I'm definitely happy with that now. So I'm then going to draw the base in, which follows the curve as if you were drawing a circle. 2 straight lines either side, try and get them about the same side. I have to go back, just adjust things to make sure that everything's in the right place. About the same side on that line. Mine's slightly off, but I don't think that's going to be a massive issue. I'm going to rub away the lines that I don't think I need. Not all the way, just slightly rub them away. I've got a bit more of an idea of where things are. So I've curved my bottle. I've redone sections as I've needed. I'm now just making sure I think everything's in the correct place. And I'm relatively happy with all that. I'm now just going to draw in where the liquid is in that bottle, and that's going to be using the lips, which is it's not a proper circle, it's like a squashed circle. So you'll have noticed that I've used these keywords throughout. You'll have also noticed that you'll have had to have done some research on these, so I've asked you to come up with a definition and find out what these words mean. So I've given you hints throughout this lesson, and I've used them, so I've used ellipse and symmetry quite a lot. So if you've been paying attention, you should be able to write those down and bring them to me next lesson. So I'm now just checking against my image, just making sure that I'm happy with where everything is, the proportion of everything. Just drawing in some last minute details which I've left out, which is the stopper at the top of the image. And then that is your outline. So for your first outline is done. You can play this video as many times as you want. I've gone a bit quickly, I am aware. And then, so you're going to do this outline. You can then choose any other image you want and complete that outline as well. And then you can either take a pencil or a pen. You can do it in biro, you can do it in what I've got is called a ink pen, and you can I want you to add in the tone and the detail, so you're getting that 3D image. I've shown you how to do that in the previous video, and I want you to do this in this one. So you'll have 2 completed drawings, and I'll attach a photo at the end to show you what I expect. You can do it any layout you want. You could do it portrait, landscape, or you can do it portrait. So you can have a drawing here and a drawing here. So yeah, play this video as many times as you want. You can also email me drawing what would have been your lesson times, and I'll respond if you need any help as well. Okay, I'll see you next week.